This is Jimi Hendrix, and this episode is called Finding Hope in Broken Trials on Christian Pattern. I've got this question that a dear good friend of mine asked me. I consider her my life consultant. And because it is, in my view, it's a confidentiality, I won't go into the whole situation. But she asked me, why trials? And you know, I went through that deep, dark night of the soul myself. On February 10th, 1999, my ex-wife and I had this big, huge, colossal fight the night before. And even though I saw the handwriting on the wall, I just refused to admit that there was a serious problem, that our marriage was nearly over. I woke up hopeful, with my eye full of wonder, thinking there's still a chance we capture our dreams in this marriage. I thought, well, I'll go back to school. I'll go to UT Arlington. I'll force the state to pay for my tuition. I will enter into the history pre-law program. I'll take a business law class, see if I can make prospects for the business. There's still hope for our marriage. We were living in a townhouse apartment at the time, and I rushed up the stairs to talk to my ex-wife. And I said, Chris, honey, I don't want to separate. And she said, but I do. Let me tell you something. That broke my heart. Because you see, for 7 months at that point, almost 7 months, this lady had been living with us. I had moved her in with us. Her name was Stephanie. She had an abusive boyfriend named Mark. I was moving her to get away from Mark, only to discover that Mark was part of the package deal. And Stephanie said, you really need to show and prove her love to her right now. And I tried, but I was shut down. I was devastated. I wanted to end my life because I could not see my life without her. I rushed upstairs after saying goodbye. And Stephanie sent my best friend Keith upstairs just when I was about to do the act. He's like, man, Jimmy, calm down. He said, you know what? This marriage has been dragging you down for far too long. Because she's allowed things in this house that you never even wanted. I said, still, I can't imagine my life without her. When you suffer from a mental illness, and you feel like your whole world is crashing down on you, then you get those thoughts. You get those lies in your head that you don't feel worthy. Anyway, he talked me out of doing the act. Within 2 days later, I left the house. And as the cabbie drove off without giving me any directions inside, I raised my fist into the air and I screamed, I'll be back! Because I was ready and willing at some point to come back and reclaim my marriage. I came back. Had many friends that wanted the same thing. And even though I wanted to reclaim the marriage, somehow I knew that this was it. The handwriting was on the wall. It was over. Within less than 2 weeks of returning home to Odessa, Texas, I received divorce papers. You talk about feeling absolutely crushed. How many people know what it's like to feel absolutely crushed? Your world is crashing down around you. Your health is crashing down around you. And the people around you. How can they understand you? How can they help you? 2 months after I received the divorce paper, I was met after a Bible study in my church at the time. Ragtag, crazy group of friends of mine. We just got home from the Bible study when I got a call at my friend Jim Bob's house. It was my friend Karen. And she says, you have to go back there and reclaim the marriage. And Brad said, I'll buy you the bus ticket. Go back there. Reclaim your marriage. And I lost my temper. I said, are y'all crazy? Me go back alone there in that drug-infested, rat-infested, crap-infested place to claim her back? I don't have the energy. Do it anyway, my friend screamed. And I screamed louder, back off! My world was crashing down around me, and my friends couldn't even help me. What help did I have in reclaiming my marriage? I was trying to get the police involved, and that couple was living with us affairs in drugs. Because they were, my ex-wife was totally fine. They were sneaking in right under her nose. And she had no idea. Nobody would believe me. Except for my soon-to-be ex-father-in-law. My friends kept trying to egg it on. Until finally one day, no, actually it was the next day, I was very sick. And my friend Jim Bob's aunt, she said, look, the next time they call you and bug you to go back there and reclaim your marriage, I'm going to tell them to shut up. Because you're in no shape to be like this. I'll tell them to shut up. She said, admit it, Jimmy. It's a pipe dream that your marriage is ever going to be fixed again. And I started crying. And she said, admit it. It's a pipe dream. Let me tell you something. That hurt more than anything. I had invested nearly 3 years of my life with a woman that I saw as the love of my life. And I was rejected. And even after they finally gave up because they knew the handwriting was on the wall, they still held on to the hope. You can get her back. You can get her back. You can get her back. And I held on to that for 10 months. Going crazy. I think I remember one weekend in mid-November, My friend Jim Bob's aunt turned to me and Jim Bob and said, you know what? Next time they come around Jimmy and I'm around, and they keep telling him that his wife's going to come back, I'm going to tell him to shut up. She said, Jimmy, you need to move on. But I couldn't. Because none of my friends knew how to help me. Except for one. My best friend, Keith Cotton. I remember in early December, it was a Tuesday night, I had just come back from a little parachurch service. I was watching TV, and I was hit by this impression that said, Chris is never coming back. And I went into my bedroom, I sat on my bedroom floor, and I cried my eyes out. Because I knew then the divorce was foul. Was no sense in hiding from it. In fact, just a few weeks before, when my friend Brad bristled because I was looking at other girls because of my marriage, I turned on him and I yelled at him, saying I did not have to wait anymore, that the marriage was really over. But I couldn't let it sink in just yet. November, December 2000, my friend Keith starts working on me. He gets me to call the church and order this little video called The Lamb of God. Needless to say, about a week after my breakdown, I went to see Keith. And he said, man, why would you want to reclaim your marriage back, only to reassociate with people that ain't worth wiping on your shoe? He said, you can still build a life. You can still have a good life without her. And so that's what I did. I tried to build a life without her, beginning in January of 2000. But for some reason, I just could not put the pieces together. I was miserable. Other than Keith, none of my friends could ease my pain. I was crying my eyes out. And I thought, well, maybe I need other friends. I thought, well, I'll start frequenting the bars. Something inside me said, no, don't do that. Don't do that. April 2000, my friend Keith paid me a visit. And I told him about a vision I had while I was married to Chris in 1998. May 1998, I dreamed I saw my name on a list. The list was a blue background with gold letters. It says whoever's name is on this list, on this vision, has keys to the kingdom. And then I was taken to a packed auditorium where I was speaking. It was amazing. None of my other friends, I asked them, let me tell you something. I moved on my own in late June of 1999. I was on a quest for a year and a half. I asked people what they thought that meant. None of them could interpret it except for my friend Keith. In January of 2001, my buddy Keith asked me to begin reading the Book of Mormon cover to cover, but not in the skeptical way I was doing, dividing it like a science. He said, I need you to read it with real intent. So I began to read it, kind of faltering and half-heartedly at first. But then, February 27, 2001, another bottom dropped in my life. I had been working for 3 weeks for West Texas Legal Aid as a paralegal. Many times they were making me feel useless. I showed up at work. I wasn't at work 30 minutes. And one of the top lawyers has me come into her office, and she says, you're fired. You're terminated. You're done. I came home and I cried myself to sleep. The next day, I went through my school and all this stuff. You know, trying to persevere the best way I knew how. That night I came home. I was watching another Christian-based program on TV, and I began thinking about the Latter-day Saint faith. I had investigated it twice with no avail because of pressure from friends. And I was writing in my journal about the atonement of Jesus Christ, and I snapped. Not snapped by being angry. I broke down crying because I knew I was about to find my answer. I knew I was about to find my breakthrough. Now, we're going to go into the Book of Mormon. Okay? Ironically, this is where I began to find my answer. 2 Nephi chapter 2, verse 25. I read that morning, particular morning after I broke down crying, and in those verses that I read in that chapter, I began to see, hey, we may go through trials, but it's up to us to make the choice of how we're going to act towards those so we can overcome those. And then I was getting closer to verse 25. And let me tell you something. Second Nephi chapter 2 verse 25 says this. Adam fell that men might be, and men are, that they might have joy. We have this mortal existence so that we can have joy. And by joy, I don't mean that's fleeting, that's based on the circumstances on this earth. No. What I mean is this. Is that we can have joy in pursuing happiness. And that type of happiness, is something goes along with an old gospel song I heard years ago. The world didn't give it to me, and the world can't take it away. Okay? We know what happened. But you see, trials come because of the fall of man. But trials come so that we can grow. And we can make a choice. When I read that passage of the Book of Mormon, 2 Nephi chapter 2, I began to see that the pattern for answering our trials is based on a choice. For the past few days, off and on, I've been going through what's known as a dark night of the soul. A deep loneliness. After several days of rejuvenation. It started, ironically, yesterday. To some extent today, but not nearly as bad. I thought that I was the only one suffering this deeper trial. And then I discovered my dear good friend was suffering an even darker trial. So that's why I'm giving this podcast. Why trials? God has the answer for us. So whatever you do, please don't give up. Please don't give up. And know that God loves each and every single one of you. And with that, you don't need to give up. We are meant to have joy. Hope you enjoy listening to Christian Pattern. If you like what you hear, please subscribe. Become a part of Christian Pattern community. Christian Pattern family. This is Jimi Hendrix saying until next time, remember who you are. Read your scriptures. And please preach the gospel. God bless you.